Good morning and welcome to the call. My name is Diane Shepard. I'm a presidential diamond with dōTERRA, and today we're going to talk about how to build classes from classes. Now let's talk a little bit about why this is so important. Anytime you book a class or hold a class, it is so important that your business continues because let's say you had an amazingly fabulous class. There was 12 people in attendance, you had several enrollments, you went home so excited. If you never got a booking from that class or a future class on your calendar, your business just died. So when you learn how to effectively book classes from the current classes that you're having, you are building momentum on your team and you're ensuring that your business will be here down the road. Because as you continue to learn this and it continues to get bookings on your calendar, it will help you to build your business strong. So let's get started. Are you ready to learn how this works? Okay, here we go. So step number one, you're at your class, okay? And at the very beginning of your class, basically you're just going to introduce what they're going to be learning at the class that day. Now, I say something like this. I'll say, welcome to the class. Today we're going to learn a lot about essential oils and how to use them in your home to find natural solutions, okay? Something as simple as that. And then I also make sure and tell them that we're going to have a drawing at the end of the class. People like drawings, so it's always good to mention that at the beginning so that they know what's going to be happening at the end and that it's coming up, okay? That drawing is very, very important for helping us to be able to get bookings at our class. Okay, so step number two is going to teach a class. And basically you just teach the same class that you normally do. Now, I want to reiterate here that it is so important for you to make sure that your class is fun and that it's interactive. So if your class, the one that you are teaching currently right now, is something that you think people would want to attend and that it would be interactive and fun, as we talked about, great. Maybe it needs to be tweaked a little bit. It's always good to have somebody come to your class to kind of watch and make sure that that is what is being perceived as you're teaching your class. So that's kind of like a little tip to just make sure that your class is very interactive and fun. Okay, so step number three, you've taught your fabulous class. At the end of the class, you are going to present your host a gift, okay? So bring them up to the front of the class and have a little gift that you have in your hand, present to them and just say, thank you for hosting the class. And let the entire class know what she gets for hosting the class. Now, if there was no host, say you were the one who hosted the class, basically you're just going to stand up in front of the room and hold the gift in front of you and say, I love it when people host classes. And I want you to know that as a thank you, this is what I give to anybody who would like to host the class. And then pass it around the room. People need to touch it and feel it and see what it is, okay? That way they're thinking in their head, I think I want one of these, right? And maybe they're thinking, I think I might want to host the class. Now, what are some gifts that you would give someone for hosting? If there's 1 to 5 guests, a good gift might be a keychain. And we're talking about the one that has 8 vials in there that you can fill up. People love those gifts. You can buy them in your back office, so it's very easy, but it's not something that they can readily get. So that's why it's a great gift. And then if there's 6+ guests there, a diffuser always works well. And you decide which diffuser you want to use. That's up to you on the price. But a diffuser is something most people like, and they typically need more than one. So that always works well. So here's a little tip. I talked about it earlier, but make sure you pass that gift around. It's so important for them to touch it. The more they touch it, the more they're going to want it, right? And we want them to want that gift. Okay, step number 4, pass out your drawing slip. So this is what the drawing slip is that I use. It doesn't matter what you use, as long as it has questions on the bottom about hosting the class, okay? So when I pass out this little prize drawing slip, I just make sure everybody has one, and then I go through the prize drawing slip one by one together. And this is kind of how it works, okay? So at the top, there's a name, a phone, and an email. And I will say, everybody together will just write down your name and then give me your phone number, write down your email, and I want you to know I'm not going to spam you. This information is purely just for me so that if I ever need to get a hold of you about something, I have a way to do that. And then together, we also answer the questions at the bottom. So I'll wait until everybody's done with that top portion, and then I'll say, okay, we're down to the bottom section, so let's just answer these questions together. The first one is asking if you'd like more information about how to get oils at wholesale. That basically means you're going to get them at 25% off of retail. If that's something that interests you, go ahead and mark the box with a yes or a maybe. The next one is if you'd like more information about hosting a class, which is what we're doing tonight. Again, if that interests you, go ahead and mark a yes or a maybe. And the third one is if you're interested in getting more information about what I do as an oil educator. I love my job, and I'd be happy to tell you more information about that. Again, just mark a yes or maybe. Now, here's the important part, okay? Anyone who marks a yes or a maybe in that box for hosting a class, I give them an additional prize drawing slip, okay? That's the only one I give an additional prize drawing slip for. So this is kind of how it sounds. When I get to that middle question, I will say, anybody who's interested in hosting a class tonight, go ahead and mark a yes or a maybe there, and I have an extra bonus. Anybody who marks a yes or a maybe, I will give you an extra prize drawing slip to get into the prize drawing, so you have a better chance of winning. That gets people excited. Better chance of winning. They don't even know what the prize is yet, but they want to win it, right? Okay, so step number 6, gathering up the prize drawing slips. So I just gather them all up, I put them in my hands, and I actually stand in front of the class and I look through those prize drawing slips while everybody's there looking at me, and I'm telling them, I'm going to see who it is that I need to give an extra prize drawing slip to. So I search through and I say, oh, Nancy, looks like you're going to host a class. I'm excited. That's so cool. Let me give you another prize drawing slip, and I just rip another one off, hand it to her. She writes her name on the top and then just gives it right back to me. No need to fill out the additional information. Now, when I do this, I can't tell you how often this happens. There are people in the room who know Nancy, and they just found out that Nancy wants to host a class. Well, if Nancy wants to host a class, then maybe they want to host a class because everybody wants to do what their friends are doing, right? So I quite often will have people say, oh, okay, you know what, I changed my mind. I think I do want to host a class. So can you go ahead and mark a yes for me and then just give me another prize drawing slip? And I get more bookings that way just because I had that happen. So make sure you do that right there in front of the class and announce those who booked the class. Okay, we're going to hold the drawing. So this is how I do the drawing. I actually turn those prize drawing slips over so I can't see the names, and I just fan them out, and then I will go to whoever is sitting right in front of me and say, okay, you get to pick who our winners are. And so they will then pick about 2. Now, sometimes I have 3, sometimes 4 winners. It all depends on how many people are in the class. I typically give out 1 for every 3 people that are there. Okay? So I give away 2 items, and the items that I give, I would say generally, this is to be true, a 5 ml wild orange and then another oil that's from the Family Physicians Kit. Now, the reason why I do that is because it's so easy and I don't have to put things together. I don't have to make anything. They're already come prepared. However, when I was first starting out, I didn't have a lot of money, and that was a lot of money to spend on those type of oils at that time. So what I did was I got 2 small little vials, and I put them in a little plastic baggie. It was a small plastic baggie that just barely fit those vials. I got them at Michael's. They were empty vials, and I would hand them to the winner and say, congratulations, you get to choose 2 oils that you would like to sample tonight. And then they would bring their little vials to me, and I would just fill them up with whatever they chose. They loved that, and it was very cost-effective for me, and I already have the oils on hand. So if that works for you, go for it. You can also do other items, roller bottles. I put together sometimes a focus blend that has peppermint and wild orange. Again, do what works for you. I don't have a lot of time to put those things together, so I stick with the 5 milliliter oil. All right, step number 8. What you do after that drawing is very important. Those who marked a yes or a maybe for hosting a class are the ones that I will always go to first. So if they're sitting down, I will just come kneel down by them and say, hey, I'm so excited you get to host a class. This is going to be great. So let me show you. I have 2 dates available, and let's see if those fit in your calendar. Now, why do I not just open up my whole calendar and show her what I have available for the next 3 months and use what works for her? You want to keep the momentum going. If they book a class out that's within 2 to 3 weeks, that excitement that they have that night is going to stay. If they book it out 3 months later, they're not going to be excited by the time that class comes around. And you want to have control of your schedule. So when you say, here's my next 2 available dates, that means that the momentum of your business will continue to roll. You want classes within the next 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. You don't want to have gaps where you're waiting for the next class in 2 months. So you take control of your business and only show them the next 2 available dates. Now, if they look at those dates and say, I'm not available at either one of them, then you give them their next 2 available dates. But you keep control of your calendar, okay? And always try to keep it within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Here's another tip. Ask them what is their best way to communicate with them. Now, I learned this by the hard way. I used to always just immediately send out emails to everybody just telling them, hey, here's how to host a great class. Thank you for hosting the class. Here's the information you need to know. And I found out people weren't reading some of them. And then I would call them up the day before and say, hey, I'm so excited about your class. I'm sure you got all my emails. And I'm like, email? You send me emails? Oh, I didn't check my email. And they'd never heard from me. And sometimes they would cancel the class because they thought it was off. So make sure that you know the best way to communicate with them. A lot of days now, people like text, and so I will text back and forth, and then I will actually try to do a physical phone call with them. But always figure out the best way to get a hold of them. Okay, here's another tip. When you have that price trying slip, and you're sitting down there talking to them, write down on the back of that slip anything that you can about them, okay? During that conversation, if they say, yeah, my son has this health issue, write that down on the back of the slip. Or if they said, you know, I really want to host the class, but I want to make sure more than anything that my mother comes or my friend's able to come, write that down, that it's important that their mom comes. Anything in part of that conversation that you think is important, write on the back of that slip. When I get home and I have a conversation with that host and I say to them, you know, I am so happy that we're going to find a solution for your son who has whatever issue you talked about. They feel like they were heard from you. And they feel important, like you matter to them. Everybody wants to feel like they're important, that they matter. So that is something that I would highly recommend that you do. All right, step number 9. You're going to send out an email to your host about how to have an effective class. Okay, and I would do this within 48 hours. Now, there's an email that I send out that has circulated around that you might have it already. You may have it from the person who sent you this. Make sure that somehow you are able to get a hold of an email that somebody sends out of how to have an effective class. I know it's out there. Google it, see if you can find it. Or reach out because it is out there. And what it is just basically goes over what they need to be doing within the next few weeks to make sure they have a great turnout for their class. The important thing here is that you're sending it out within 48 hours of that class. That shows you're professional, that shows you're on top of it, and it keeps their excitement for the class going. Okay? All right, step number 10, follow up. I don't think we need to reiterate this more than we already have, but it's so important to make sure that you're following up with them, regular phone calls, text, and letting them know that, hey, I'm here, we're a team, we're going to work together to make sure that this class goes very successful. So the timing matters of when you're going to follow up with them. If they book the class within 2 weeks, your first call is going to be 2 days after you send that email, okay? Because you're sending that email immediately, right? Right after you see them at the class. You then need to make that phone call soon after. And that initial phone call is basically going to say, here's what you need to do. Start making your list, get your invites out, and then do this, okay? The second call is going to be 1 week before the class, and basically you're just going to follow up to make sure that they do those things you talked about a week ago. And the third call is going to be the day before the class. So get a good head count and see how everything's going. Now, if the class was booked 2 weeks after, okay, in other words, it wasn't booked within that 2-week period. It was booked longer than that. You're going to wait to make that phone call to them 2 weeks before the class. So don't call them immediately. If they booked 4 weeks out, you really don't need to make a phone call to them until 2 weeks before the class. That's when they're really going to get started sending out their invites and preparing for their class. And the other calls are the same. You're going to do 1 week before the class, and then the third call is 1 day before the class. So there you go. You get a weekly challenge now. For those who are part-time, we want you to book a class from a class that you teach this week and use all the methods that we just talked about. Those of you who are really going for it, let's push that up a notch, and we want you to book 3 classes from the classes that you teach this week. Okay, well, there you have it. have fun, and we will hopefully talk to you soon. Goodbye.